Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm so glad you joined me today. I am going to be reading from this book, Mischief and Masquerade. It is book 7 in my Matched in Miracle series. It was a lot of fun to write, and I hope you've enjoyed the first few chapters. I'm going to be starting on chapter 5. Still hobbling on her blistered foot, Kate let Oliver open the door to the tiny market. The rows of goods spread out before her like the pictures she had seen in a dollar store, even though she had never been inside one. A bench at the front of the store beckoned for Kate to plop down and examine the damage on her heel. "I'll sit here while you get what you want." To Rick, Emily said, "I'll join you in a minute." She stepped out of Rick's arm and sat beside Kate. The men walked away. Only Rick turned to throw a questioning glance in Emily's direction. As Oliver strode away from her, his backside was just as handsome right side up as it was when she hung over his shoulder. "Are you okay?" Emily asked. Why did people keep asking her? "Fine." Kate shook her head to clear the vision as he strode around the corner. "You don't look—" Kate interrupted her. "For the millionth time, I said I'm fine." Emily leaned in. "I'll need your credit card to get some groceries." Kate fished in her wallet and handed it over to Emily. "The PIN is 4434. After Emily took the card and repeated the PIN, she disappeared around the same corner as Oliver. Once they were out of earshot, would they have a good laugh at her expense? She closed her eyes and leaned her head against the wall. What would Oliver think if he knew she was the real Kate? Would he die of embarrassment, too? Probably not. He was a man who hardly looked like anything ruffled him. Still, what would he think? Would he apologize? Treat her differently? She'd only closed her eyes for a moment when someone tugged her shoe off. Kate flew to a sitting position and tried to jerk her foot back. Oliver kept a firm grip on her leg. "I brought some Band-Aids, cotton balls, and some hydrogen peroxide." He pulled each item out of the bag as he named them. Holy gracious goodness! His touch sent little tingles up her leg and straight into her stomach. Why did she have to be so attracted to him? Kate let out a soft moan. His gaze shot straight at her. Had it sounded like pleasure? "I mean, ouch, she stammered. "I haven't even touched you." Oliver opened the top of the package. "It's the anticipation of how much it's going to hurt." But the pain wasn't what occupied her thoughts. It was the fact that Oliver was so close, and all she could think about was kissing him. That was insane. After the way he'd practically bullied her, she shouldn't be thinking this way. And besides, Rick was her intended. Oh, how she wished could be Oliver, if for no other shallow reason that he was drop-dead gorgeous. "Stop, Kate." He pulled out the cotton balls. "Here." She held out her hand to take them while he twisted off the cap of the peroxide. As if she was made of glass, he took the cotton from her and dabbed the liquid on her heel. It sizzled and stung. Oh, now it really, ouch. "Sorry." He didn't look up, but kept his focus on cleaning up her blister. Blowing on it, he dried it off and retrieved a couple of Band-Aids from the box. "I'll put 2 over it." Kate still didn't know how she was going to hobble all the way back to the inn. "Thank you. How's your other heel?" She took off her shoe and examined it. "It's fine." He rolled his eyes. "Is everything fine with you?" His voice held a note of sarcasm. "It was until I picked the wrong one," and she wasn't talking about her shoes. Oliver stuffed everything back into the bag and sat beside her. "Look, I'm sorry about throwing me over your shoulder." No, I meant—" A man who didn't like to apologize. "Meant what?" "Well, since Kate and Richard are having dinner tonight, would you like to come over to my suite and I'll make supper?" Her heart ramped up more than a notch. Spend time alone with Rick's aide? "Maybe. Depends on what you're making." "Chicken cordon bleu." Kate let out another moan. "You like it?" She shook her head. "No, I mean, I love it. It's one of my favorites. Our chef. She cut herself off. He drew his eyebrows together. Kate must pay you really well to afford a chef. I meant her chef. I eat at her home a lot. Phew, don't blow it, Kate. So, what's it like working for her? Oh, she's amazing. At this point, Kate could describe herself, and when the Earl found out she was really the heiress, she could be lying. She wouldn't be lying much. At least that's how she justified it in her head. How so? Kate shot a sly grin at Oliver. She's generous. And? Kind. Those are pretty generic. He leaned forward, watching her. She loves kittens, but not cats. Sunrises, but not sunsets, but not sunrises. She hates mornings. Her favorite drink is root beer. Oliver stuck out his tongue. Yuck, it tastes like medicine. She'd heard Europeans didn't like root beer for that reason. What's your favorite drink? Nothing alcohol. His words came out forcefully. Are you a recovering alcoholic? He shook his head and leaned back. My father was, and it almost ruined our family. I'm sorry to hear it. Tell me about your family, he asked. Should she talk about her family or Emily's? Better stick with the charade. There's 6 of us. I'm the youngest, though she couldn't imagine what it would be like to grow up with so many people. He laughed. Oh, you're one of those. And what did he mean by that? She'd heard something about birth order, but couldn't remember what. What about you? I'm an only child, like Kate. So much pressure. Do you ever wish you had siblings? She asked. It would make life a lot easier. Emily was the youngest in her family, and she called it the sweet spot. She often said my parents didn't have any more kids because after me they reached perfection. So dinner at my place? Kate's inside sizzled a little at the thought of dining alone with him. Sounds delicious. What can I bring? Dessert? A salad? Both. That would mean she would have to get off the bench and get the things she needed. I'll purchase the items for the main course, and you can decide on a dessert. He stood and glanced down at her foot. Would you like me to carry you? No. She couldn't imagine him tossing her No, she couldn't imagine him toting her around the store. If you'll get me one of those scooters, I'll be fine. He left her side and returned a moment later. Your carriage, madam. Thanks, my lord. She held out her hand like Cinderella waiting for the footman to open the door. He took her fingers in his large hand and held her while she settled onto the scooter. They parted ways, Oliver to the meat and cheese section, and Kate to the baking aisle. After she filled her cart with the ingredients to make a salad and a pre-made cheesecake, she headed to the cashier. Kate's phone pinged. Hey, it was from Emily. Rick and I are already heading back to the inn. Oh my goodness, he wouldn't let me pay for anything. It was a good thing Kate had several credit cards. Oliver stood behind her, looking over her shoulder as she pulled out the card with the name Catherine Wellington on it. Wow, she even lets you use hers? Yes. Kate ducked her head, hiding the heat rising in her cheeks. Did she try to fabricate another lie? Perhaps she would just leave it at yes. He picked up their bags and draped them over her He picked up their bags and draped them over her shoulder. Kate parked the scooter before limping out of the store. While the Band-Aid helped, she still had a lot of pain in her heel. Once more he scooped her up in his arms, the plastic bags crinkling against his body. This time she didn't scream. You don't have to carry me. I can walk. His tantalizing smile curved his delicious lips. You're not fine. His chestnut brown eyes studied her face, and his gaze settled on her mouth. How about we do piggyback? It was simple. How about we do piggyback? It was simply too tempting to kiss him here in the broad daylight with the whole town of Miracle Inn looking on. Oliver carried her to her door as Kate fumbled in her purse for her room key. I could have sworn I had it. Did you search the bottom of your bag? He set her down and held out his hand like he expected her to turn her purse over to him. Of course. She sat on the carpet and dumped the contents onto the floor. Her wallet fell out and landed open, exposing her insurance card with her name boldly written across the bottom. Oliver snatched it up before she could grab it. Do you always carry Kate's identification along with her credit cards? Was she ever glad he hadn't seen her driver's license, or the gig would have been up. I meant to give it back to her. Kate held her purse open for him to drop the wallet inside, but he didn't release it. I was holding it for her when we were at the airport, and I guess I forgot to give it back to her. The door opened. Oh, you're back, she said when she spotted Kate on the floor. Kate widened her eyes and motioned with a quick nod of her head to the wallet. Emily gasped. Oh, there it is. She grabbed Kate's wallet. I wondered where it went. Kate chuckled nervously, and this is why she needs a personal assistant. Oliver held out his hand to help her up. I'll expect you over around 7. Does that work for you? You're not going to come carry me? She mocked him with a grin. I can arrange that. He winked and crossed the hall to his suite. Kate limped into the kitchenette and put her cheesecake in the refrigerator. Kate limped into the kitchenette and put her cheesecake in the refrigerator. I'm in trouble. Emily raised her eyebrows as a smirk left the corners of her mouth. Uh-oh. Are you falling for the Earl's aid? Kate shook her head. Don't be ridiculous. I only met him 2 hours ago. Emily sighed. You're right. Hardly enough time to decide if you're in love. She waved her hand, motioning for Kate to follow her. I need your help. Kate followed her into the bedroom. With what? I don't have any idea what to wear. Emily flung the closet open. Do I dress up for dinner, or should I do casual? Did the Earl say what he preferred? Kate slid the hanger to the side. Emily sat on the edge of the bed and chewed her lip. He didn't. I'll be back. Kate left the suite and crossed the hall, tapping on Oliver's door. She meant the Earl's door. The door opened, but a chain barred it from opening all the way. Yes? Oliver peered at her through the slight crack. Miss Wellington wants to know how she should dress this evening. Oliver closed the door and opened it to let her inside. The Earl is wearing blue jeans and a cowboy shirt. His suite was a mirror of hers with similar furnishings and decor. The Earl sat on the couch, thumbing through a local newspaper. He wore a blue plaid shirt with silver buttons down the front and a pair of dark blue jeans. He had one booted foot crossed over his knee. On the coffee table lay a white cowboy hat. Kate smirked. Apparently, Rick liked to blend in. I'll inform Miss Wellington. The Earl gave a little nod of dismissal. She hurried back across the hall. The door was locked, and once again she'd forgotten her key. After knocking several times and getting no response, she laid her head against the door. Emily must be in the shower. It wouldn't do any good to bang on the door, since Emily probably wouldn't be able to hear her until she finished. Kate would simply have to wait. The alcove she'd spotted earlier beckoned to her. A standing lamp cast a soft glow over the armchair. Kate perused the bookshelf until she came upon one of her favorite books, Under a Tuscan Sky. She read it in college and loved the story of Isabella, who travels to Tuscany to rediscover her creative spark, where she meets a dark and handsome winemaker. Oliver's image flashed in her mind, so like that of the male protagonist, Luca, with a dark and Oliver's image flashed in her mind, so like that of the male protagonist, Luca, with a dark and haunting past. Oliver hinted about his father's drinking problem. She smirked. It stood to reason that a winemaker might be in the same situation. So that was chapter 5. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned next week for chapter 6.